Welcome back to the live morning show presented by Don Bullock Chevrolet. We are honored and pleased to have Kim Tschirret with us. Kim is the founder and CEO of Hope Reins. Kim, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lem, so much for having me.
Let's get started. First, I could do, but I want you to tell the folks, what is Hope Reins? What does it do?
Yeah, Hope Reins is a nonprofit where we pair kids that are experiencing trauma and life crisis with horses that have been rescued from similar circumstances, and we help the kids find hope and healing in these 90-minute sessions where the child is paired one-on-one with a horse and a mentor.
Kim, this is something that I have seen discussed in the media in other places, but until I heard a presentation by some of your staff several months ago, I was not aware that there was a program like this in North Carolina, especially in eastern North Carolina. How long has Hope Reins been doing what it's been doing and working with kids?
Yeah, 14 years. 14 years. We just are celebrating that anniversary, and we have served what our primary service is this 90-minute session where a child is paired with a horse and a mentor on a weekly basis, and our services are completely free of charge. I'll explain why.
Okay.
And in 14 years, we've held 23,000 sessions. 23,000 from kids all over the state of North Carolina. We've had kids come from Wilmington, from your area here, because there really isn't anything like what we do. And the majority of the kids we serve live out or below the poverty line, and they have nowhere to go for services.
There's so many things that we could talk about, but I want to ask you about the need.
Yes.
We're sitting here the end of 2023. We're 3 years out from COVID. There's so much that's going on. I'm not sure that the average person understands the breadth and the depth of the need for services that are out there.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining that a lot of the youth that you deal with are dealing with mental issues, mental health issues.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen and what you see as the need and the role that Hope Reins fills?
Yeah. The mental crisis has never been more dire for kids. The studies say school-aged kids, which is 5 to 18, which is the children that we serve. And not only is it mental health issues, I was just listening to something online driving here that the suicide is the number 2 death for kids ages 10 to 18, number 2. So I mean, it's just everywhere, and there's just so much pain for our kids. And then there's just things that happen in life, like their parent dies, or they're sexually abused. I mean, it just runs the gamut. Kids that are trafficked, and in the state of North Carolina, and I love our state, but we rank in almost last place for providing mental health services for kids ages 5 to 18.
That's something that we've talked about. Well, mental health services for our citizens as a whole,
as general.
Yes, general. How did COVID change the services or change the way that you do business?
Well, fortunately for us, with COVID, because we're outdoors, we were able to really continue serving our kids. We took all the safety protocols, but it definitely has increased the need. I always say I don't think COVID caused the mental health crisis. I think it exacerbated an issue that was already present.
No question.
And just made things so much worse. So we've seen a real steady rise in the need.
Let's talk a little bit about the sessions. Can you walk us through what a 90-minute session is like for both the student and the mentor and the horse?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 2 requirements for our kids. One is they have to want to be there. And the number 2 is that the parent needs to be present. And even at 5 years old, we do an informational tour where the kids get to come and see Hope Reins and meet some of the horses, because they didn't have a voice in what happened to them, right? And so we want them to have a voice in their healing, right? We want them to say, yes, I want to be here. And inevitably, either they choose a horse based on the story or some connection that happens during this tour, and every once in a while, a horse chooses a child, which is a really, really, really special moment.
Yes.
And then they come on a weekly basis on that same night, every single week, and they're paired with the same horse and the same mentor. And that looks different for every session, but we're a skills-based program. And the 4 things horses teach humans, trust, communication, boundaries, and leadership, are the skills, the resiliency skills that we're trying to help our kids learn and adapt so that they have healthy coping skills. And it's actually what Harvard did a study that those are the 4 things that kids need to build resiliency, which is what's key for them in their trauma.
So a couple of questions on that. A 5-year-old typically is not going to be very tall.
Yeah.
What's the typical interaction between, say, a 4-foot tall 5-year-old
Yeah.
and a horse that may be substantially larger and bigger?
Yeah.
Is there an intimidation factor there?
It depends on the child. Some kids can be a little more intimidated, and we have our minis, and we have a Shetland pony that maybe
Okay.
they're a little more comfortable with. But it's funny, Lem, I mean, even the 5-year-old will be riding, we have a former police horse, Raleigh police horse, his name is Zeb, and he's 2,000 pounds. He's giant, he's a draft horse. And you'll see little 5-year-olds up on Zeb.
What are some of the skills that you're teaching your students? Do you call them students?
We just call them our session kids.
So
Yeah.
what are the skills that you're teaching your session kids? Are you teaching them just basic riding skills? Are they looking at jumping, dressage? What are you teaching them?
Yeah, we actually don't really do any sort of formal riding lessons. We're all about relationship with our kids, and our horses have a relationship job to connect with them on an emotional basis. And when the kids come, Lem, for the very first time, most of them are so shut down emotionally, socially, they're just because of their trauma. And so the very first thing is they need to feel safe, and our ranch is a safe refuge. And then we need to build trust, because without trust, they can't begin to heal. So we do all sorts of like exercises and games and things that we do with our horse to build trust. I mean, simply being in the presence of a 1,500-pound animal
Yes.
requires a lot of trust,
Yes.
right? And horses have a lot to teach people. And so those are really the skills. We start with trust, and then we help them work on their communication. We help them work on boundaries, because their boundaries have been completely overrun. They need to know that
Your students' boundaries.
Yes, yeah. And who better to teach you boundaries than a 1,500-pound horse? And then ultimately leadership. We have a program called Kids Give Back, which is kind of the last part of our program, where kids get to stay and volunteer and be a part of helping others.
That may answer my next question. Do your kids actually care for the horses that they are riding in terms of feeding them, brushing them, mucking out their stables, things like that?
Well, during sessions, they do a lot of those things.
Okay.
So we always start with a chore. They could be scooping horse poop or doing something in the garden or lots of different things. But yes, they can stay and volunteer and help in all those ways.
Do you have former kids that have gone on to become mentors and are working with you now in that capacity?
We have had that. We don't currently have any kids, but we do have a lot of kids that have, come back and spoken to donors, spoken at events. We had one young lady, Ashley, who really struggled with debilitating anxiety, so much so that she didn't want to live. She stood up in front of 200 people and told them how Hope Reins had changed her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your horses also have stories to tell. Are all of the horses that you have from less than good environments? Have they all come from less than good environments?
They do. They are all rescued from some sort of adversity. We just brought 4 new horses in. We had lost 3 of our foundational horses just due to old age. And 3 out of the 4 Lem were all rescued out of slaughter auctions. So, these horses get sold, and they end up, in these horrific situations. And thankfully, people go in and frontline rescue the ones that they think they can rehabilitate.
What's your program for taking a horse from that situation to get them ready to work with the kids that you're bringing in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't do our own frontline rescue. We adopt from people that have gone and rescued horses, because that's a lot of work in and of itself. And or we have people who have done their own rescue that own the horse that then will say, hey, I've got this really great horse that we think would be a good fit for you. But it takes a very special horse to do what we do. It's really a one in a million, and we have an amazing staff that goes and meets a horse, evaluates them. If we feel like it could be a good fit, they come to us on a 90-day trial, and we want to see that they're going to get along in our herd of horses, that they're going to be able to be managed by lots of people. We have 180 active volunteers that really run our ranch, and so there's always a lot of people that are around them. And again, it goes back to that relationship job. Our horses need to like people. They need to believe people are a good thing. And they need to really want to work with our kids.
Why did you start Hope Reins?
Well, I myself grew up in a home that looked really great on the outside, but my father was an alcoholic, and I never knew safety as a little girl. And for whatever reason, God brought me a horse. It was just the thing that I had when I was a child and a teen to really hang on to, and the only thing I ever told what was happening in my house. So I know what it's like to have that comfort and that connection, and really wanted other kids to have that. And in the middle of the recession in 2009 was when God said, I've got something for you to do, and this was it. And everybody kept saying, you are crazy, businesses are going under, you'll never find land, and it just happened. It just happened right away.
I'll ask this question. You did not have a formalized program with your horse as a child.
No.
How did you go from the comfort and the security and the lessons that your horse as a child taught you to the more formalized program that Hope Reins has now? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Oh, yeah, that's such a great question. I was, my dad made me show my horse. Like, I was in this world of performance where I had to show, and it was very stressful for me, and it was never anything I wanted to do. I always just wanted to be with my horse and hang out with my horse and kind of have this relationship, but that just wasn't kind of the situation. But I still found great comfort and connection there. And so Hope Reins is really this place where kids get to come and be with a horse and have a relationship with a horse, and there's no performance about anything that we do. It's really they bring wherever they are, and their horse and their mentor show up, and they love them exactly as they are, and really make that very, very special connection.
Is there another animal that humans interact with that has the same relationship that a horse and rider have?
I think dogs do. I mean, if you look at the therapies and the research that's done, dogs and horses really, and cat people, I'm sorry, I love cats too, but they really seem to have a real emotional connection and relational connection with people. It
seemed that way, but I didn't want to assume that. I wanted to ask you. Looking at where things are right now with Hope Reins, are you able to meet the need of the community that you serve with the resources you have now?
Yeah, well, we're never going to be able to meet all the demand, and we prioritize our kids again. So many that don't have the resources, but we need funding. We're 100% donor driven, so we don't take any government funding. We're faith based, and people are the ones, just regular people, just like you, Lem, that come along that want to help our kids. And right now we have 75 kids waiting to get in to have services. So they're in their highest crisis, and they're waiting to get into our program.
In terms of meeting the needs for those 75 young people, what does that look like? Do you need more horses? You need more volunteers? You need more space? What does that actually look like to meet that need?
Yeah, so next year we probably will bring in at least one more horse. We just brought in 4, and we can always use more volunteers. And then we also have part-time staff that really work with our kids, front lines that are coming off the wait list. And so those are all needs. But horses are very expensive therapy partners, and our budget this year is going to be $2.1 million. So it just takes a lot. But we're also serving 210 kids.
Yes.
So it's a lot of kids. We have 18 horses. and about 36 people on staff.
From the standpoint of how you get I'm struggling to. I want to put this in the right way.
Yeah.
How do your kids come to you? Are they referred to you by schools? Do parents bring them to you? Do social services bring? How do you actually get connected with your kids?
Yeah, it's really all those things. We have doctors that refer kids to us, therapists, pediatricians, word of mouth. Our families that have had such great support and such a great experience, let people know. DSS recommends, and then we have very specific partners that we go out and partner with, like our local homeless shelter and Refugee Hope Partners, and they bring kids to us as well.
If a family member or friend believes that they know of a young person that Hope Reins might be able to assist, can they contact you directly with that?
Absolutely, yeah. HopeReins.org. It's REINS.org. And our telephone number is 919-345-4914. And our intake manager will contact them and can talk them through the process.
And I would say any online search will bring that up. Even if you put REIGNS, it will take it'll take you back to that. If what we have said today has struck a chord with any of our viewers who say, I may want to find out more about Hope Reins, or I know someone, or I believe I know someone, or I might like to volunteer, or this is a cause that I would like to consider contributing to. How can they go about doing that?
Yeah, well, the same way. Just going to our website, hopereins.org, is that really the best way to do it, or call us. If anybody wants to come for a tour, we'd love to show you around the ranch so you can see what we do. The other really cool thing is there's a book that came out about us about 4 years ago called Joey. We don't benefit financially.
Joey?
Joey. And if you just go on Amazon, you can look it up. But it's about one of our original rescued horses that was blinded from starvation, and the story of how Hope Reins started, and this beautiful relationship that Joey had, and really showing all of us what blind faith looks like. And it's a national bestseller. It's a great stocking stuffer. Pick it up for friends and family and spread the word.
Was the author in any way connected with Hope Reins?
She was, yeah. She was somebody that was a supporter and a volunteer for many years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, as we were talking just before we came on air, you mentioned to me that you have expansion plans for Hope Reins. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so God's given us a really big vision for true hope and real healing for every child, and we didn't know how that was going to happen until the Joey book came out. And we are building a training program so that people who are interested in starting something similar can come to us and go through our training program and start a ranch or a farm wherever they're located in their community, because we just want kids to have more access to hope and healing where they are.
How has that worked out so far?
Well, we're just launching it.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been beta testing it virtually over the last couple of years. We've had 100 people that have gone through our training, and about a dozen that have opened. So we've got it's an online training curriculum that we'll be launching in January.
Congrats! That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's paying it forward too,
Yeah.
in terms of trying to say that the success that you've had here locally can be duplicated and expanded upon in other places.
Absolutely.
Kim, time goes by so quickly in these interviews. We're almost out of time. If there was one thing that you would like for our viewers to take away from our conversation, what would that be?
That kids that do not heal from their childhood trauma become the adults that are the incarcerated and the homeless and have mental illness. Kids have got to heal from their trauma. It's a vital. So whether it's Hope Reins or taking them to a therapist or finding a way, kids need hope and they need help.
So I'll add this, that sometimes parents don't have the tools, nor are they the right people to help their own children heal from the trauma. Especially in instances where the parents are not the cause of the trauma, there's something else has happened. We all need help from outside, and that's why there are programs out there, yours and others, that are there to help anyone that needs help, but especially children like that. So it's not a failure to say, I think my child could
No.
benefit from something extra like this.
No, absolutely not. They've got to heal and they've got to build that resiliency.
Kim Tschirret,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for being here.
Thank you so
Greatly
much.
appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the contact information for Hope Reins will be here at the station. A wonderful program. If it's something that you believe you know someone that could benefit from or you'd like to learn more about, please reach out hopereins.org. We're going to step aside now for these commercial messages. When we come back, Wayne will be speaking with a representative from the Salvation Army. You're watching the Live Morning Show presented by Don Bullock Chevrolet, and we'll be right back.